3 weeks after my daughter's engagement party, the event coordinator called me and said, "Mr. Mitchell, I need to see you urgently. I overheard something at the party that you need to know. Please come alone and don't mention this to your daughter." Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The call came on a Thursday morning. I was in my office at Mitchell's Auto Care, the business I'd built from nothing over 38 years. 3 locations across Houston now, good reputation, steady income. The kind of success you don't take for granted when you started with a 2-bay garage and a dream. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number. But something made me pick up. "Mr. Mitchell?" A woman's voice. Nervous. "This is Sandra Reeves. I coordinated your daughter's engagement party at the Westbrook Hotel 3 weeks ago." I remembered her. Professional, detail-oriented, made the whole event run smoothly. "Yes, Sandra. Is something wrong with the invoice?" "No, sir. This isn't about payment. I need to see you in person, today if possible. And please, don't tell your daughter I called." My hand tightened on the phone. "What's this about?" "I can't explain over the phone. But I heard something at the party. Something you need to know before the wedding. Can you meet me at my office downtown? 1 o'clock? Through my office window, I watched my mechanics working in the service bay. Normal Thursday. Normal life. But her voice carried something that made my stomach turn. "I'll be there. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And please, come alone." She hung up before I could ask anything else. I set down the phone and stared at the family photo on my desk. Melissa in her engagement dress, glowing. My son Derek standing beside her, smiling. Grant, my future son-in-law, arm around Melissa's waist. Everyone happy, everyone together. "Something you need to know before the wedding." "Dad?" Derek's voice from the doorway made me jump. He leaned against the frame, coffee in hand, that casual posture he'd perfected over 3 years of living in my house without working. "You okay? You look weird." "Fine. Just business stuff." He nodded, not really listening. "So, hey, Nicole and I were thinking about that trip to Cabo. You know, the one we mentioned last month. We found a great deal. Only needs about $4,000 for the package. $4,000 for a vacation, while living rent-free in my home. We'll talk about it later, Derek." "Later when? The deal expires next week. I just need you to transfer the money and—" "Later," he huffed, pushed off the doorframe. "Whatever. You've been weird lately." He disappeared down the hall toward the break room where he spent most of his days. I looked at the photo again. Derek was 34 years old. He'd moved back in after his marketing company failed. Temporarily, he'd said. That was 3 years ago. His girlfriend Nicole had followed 6 months later. No rent, no timeline, just expectations. And now a $4,000 vacation. The morning crawled. I tried focusing on supply orders, staffing schedules, the expansion plans I'd been developing. My mind kept circling back to Sandra's trembling voice. At noon, I told my manager I had a meeting and drove downtown. Sandra's office was in a small building near the Galleria, event planning firm, her name on the door. She met me in the lobby. Younger than I remembered, maybe early 40s. Anxious hands, apologetic eyes. "Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming. Let's go to my office." I followed her to a small room with a desk covered in fabric samples and seating charts. She closed the door carefully. "Can I get you water? Coffee? Just tell me what you heard." She nodded, sat behind her desk, clasped her hands together. "I almost didn't call you. I've gone back and forth for weeks. But I keep thinking, if I were in your position, I'd want to know." "Know what?" She took a breath. At the engagement party, I was doing final checks near the terrace. The doors were partially open. Your daughter and her fiancé were outside. They didn't know I could hear them. My throat tightened. "What did they say?" Sandra pulled out her phone, set it on the desk. I recorded it, not intentionally. I was testing the audio equipment for the speeches, and the recorder was still running. I didn't realize what I'd captured until I was reviewing files the next day. She pressed play. Melissa's voice, clear and familiar. 6 more months, baby. That's all we need. Once we're married, and I'm on the accounts, we push for the sale. Grant's voice, Smooth. Your dad's what, 63? He should be thinking about retirement anyway. We frame it as doing him a favor. Less stress, more time to enjoy life. Melissa laughed. He's so trusting. He already gave us $50,000 for this party. Once the business sells, we're looking at what, $3 million minimum? Grant, at least. And with the prenup structured right, whatever we have before the divorce stays separate. So the business sale money is ours. Divorce? My legs felt weak. I gripped the arm of the chair. Melissa's voice continued. Derek has no idea either. He thinks he's getting the business when Dad dies. Idiot's been waiting around for 3 years doing nothing. Grant, let him wait. By the time your father figures anything out, we'll have the money and be gone. Easy payday. Sandra stopped the recording. I'm so sorry, Mr. Mitchell. The room tilted. I blinked, tried to focus. $50,000 I'd spent on that engagement party. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer. Melissa had insisted on cash gifts only. No registry. We're starting fresh, Dad. Cash is more practical. I'd thought she was being sensible. How long is the full recording? Sandra scrolled. About 4 minutes. They discussed specifics, timeline, how to convince you to sell. Grant mentioned having a buyer already interested. A buyer already interested. They'd been planning this before the engagement. Maybe before they even started dating. Can you send me that file? Of course. She typed on her phone. There. I also have the metadata showing when and where it was recorded. Timestamps, location data, everything. My phone buzzed with the incoming file. Mr. Mitchell, I don't know what you'll do with this. But I couldn't stay silent. That party, you were so proud. The way you looked at your daughter. She trailed off. I stood slowly. You did the right thing. Thank you. She walked me to the door. I'm sorry it's this kind of news. I drove home in a daze. Autopilot. Highways. Exits. Familiar streets. My house appeared before I realized I'd arrived. The house looked the same as always. Brick exterior, manicured lawn, the oak tree I'd planted when we moved in 30 years ago. Margaret had loved that tree. She'd been gone 4 years now. Cancer. I'd thought losing her was the worst pain I'd ever feel. I was wrong. Inside, Derek sprawled across my leather couch, phone in hand, some video playing at full volume. Nicole was in the kitchen, eating my food, scrolling her tablet. Hey, Mr. M. Nicole barely glanced up. There's leftover pizza if you want some. I walked past without answering. Into my office. Closed the door. Locked it. I sat at my desk and played the recording again. Then again. Each time, the words cut deeper. Easy payday? He's so trusting. Derek has no idea. I pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Dates, numbers, details that suddenly formed a pattern I'd been too blind to see. The engagement party. 50,000. Grant had suggested the venue. The caterer. The guest list heavily weighted toward his business contacts. Melissa's requests over the past year. Help with car payments, credit card debt, a loan for Grant's investment opportunity that never got repaid. Another 30,000 minimum. Derek's residence. 3 years, no rent, groceries, utilities, car insurance, spending money. I calculated roughly. Another 60,000 at least. And Grant already had a buyer for my business. A business worth $3 million. I'd been funding my own destruction. I opened my laptop and searched. Asset Protection Attorney, Houston. The first result with good reviews was a firm called Chen & Associates, specializing in estate planning, trust creation, business protection. They had an opening tomorrow at 9. I made the appointment. Then I sat back and listened to the recording one more time. 6 more months. That's all we need. They thought they had time. They thought I was a trusting old fool. They were half right. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in my office until 3 in the morning, documenting everything. Every check I'd written, every loan I'd given, every favor I'd done that was really an investment in my own betrayal. By dawn, I had 12 pages of notes. At 8:30, I drove downtown to the Chen & Associates office. 20th floor, glass and steel. Professional. A paralegal escorted me to a conference room. 5 minutes later, a woman walked in. Mid-50s, sharp eyes, firm handshake. Mr. Mitchell, I'm Victoria Chen. Tell me what's happening. I told her everything, played the recording, showed her my notes. Explained about Derek and Nicole, the 3 years of freeloading, the constant demands. Explained about Melissa and Grant, the engagement party, the plan to sell my business and disappear. Victoria listened without interrupting. Made notes. When I finished, she set down her pen. Mr. Mitchell, you're not the first parent I've seen in this situation. Unfortunately, you won't be the last. But you're doing the right thing by acting now, before the wedding. Can they get my business? Not if we move quickly. Texas law protects business owners, but only if proper structures are in place. Right now, your business is vulnerable. Your house is vulnerable. Your savings are vulnerable. What do? We create an irrevocable trust. Transfer your major assets into it. You maintain control during your lifetime, but after death, distribution follows your explicit instructions. No challenges. No manipulation. And my children? Victoria's expression was careful. They can receive whatever you specify. Minimum legal requirements. Maximum legal requirements. Nothing at all, depending on structure. That's your choice. I thought about Melissa's laugh on that recording. Derek's 3 years of entitlement. Nicole eating my food while barely acknowledging my existence. What about removing them from my property? Derek and his girlfriend? If there's no lease agreement, they're essentially long-term guests. You can begin eviction proceedings. 30 days written notice, then legal removal if they refuse to leave. 30 days. Victoria pulled out documents. Here's what I recommend. Full asset protection package. Trust creation, will revision, beneficiary changes on all accounts, and eviction notices for your son and his girlfriend. Total fee is $12,000. I'd spent $50,000 on a party celebrating my daughter's plan to steal from me. $12,000 to protect everything I'd built seemed like a bargain. Let's do it. We spent 2 hours going through documents, signing, initialing, structuring. Victoria explained every step. The business would transfer to trust management. The house would transfer. My investment accounts, savings, retirement funds, everything protected. She handed me 2 sealed envelopes at the end. Eviction notices. Serve them personally so there's no question of receipt. Once served, the 30-day clock starts. I took the envelopes, heavy paper, official seals. Mr. Mitchell. Victoria paused at the door. What you're about to do will likely end your relationship with your children permanently. I want you to understand that. I looked at the envelopes in my hands. They ended the relationship themselves. I'm just making it official. She nodded. Call me if you need anything. I drove home with the envelopes on my passenger seat. The recording played in my head on loop. Easy payday. He's so trusting. When I walked through my front door, Derek was exactly where I'd left him. Couch, phone, volume too loud. Hey, Dad. He didn't look up. Nicole wants to order Thai food tonight. You're paying, right? I walked past him to my office. Closed the door. Not yet. But soon. The next 2 weeks, I watched. Really watched. Saw things I'd been ignoring for years. Derek slept until noon every day. Spent afternoons on my couch, playing video games, watching videos, contributing nothing. When he did speak to me, it was always about money. The Cabo trip. A new gaming system. His car needed repairs. Nicole treated my house like a hotel, my refrigerator like a personal grocery store. She never once said thank you. Never once offered to help with anything. Just took. Melissa called twice. Both times about wedding planning. Both times ending with a request for money. Dad, the florist needs a deposit. $10,000. Dad, Grant found the perfect honeymoon package. $15,000. But it's such a deal. I gave her non-committal answers. Said I'd think about it. She got frustrated but didn't push. Probably figured she could manipulate me later. Grant called once too. Friendly, casual. Hey Horace, just wanted to chat about the business. Melissa mentioned you've been stressed lately. You know, retirement's not a bad idea at your age. Free up some time. Enjoy life. I could help you find a buyer if you're interested. There it was. Not even subtle. I'll keep that in mind, I said. Thanks for thinking of me. No problem, Pops. Family helps family. I hung up and added the call to my notes. Day 14. The eviction documents had been sitting in my desk drawer for 2 weeks. I'd wanted to wait for the trust to finalize. Victoria had called that morning with confirmation. Everything's filed. Your assets are protected. They can't touch any of it now. The house fell quiet that evening. Derek and Nicole were in the living room, planning something on her tablet. I picked up the envelopes and walked out of my office. They looked up when I entered. Derek's face shifted from bored to alert. He could sense something different. "What's up, Dad?" I placed the envelopes on the coffee table between them. Derek picked his up, confused. "What is this?" "Official eviction notice. You have 30 days to find other housing." Silence. Complete silence. Then Nicole laughed. "You're joking." "I'm not." Derek tore open his envelope, scanned the document. His face went pale, then red. "You can't be serious. I'm your son. You're an adult who's been living in my house for 3 years without paying rent, without working, without contributing anything. Time to grow up." Nicole stood, hands on hips. "This is insane. Where are we supposed to go?" "That's your problem to solve. You have 30 days. Derek threw the paper on the couch. "This is about Melissa, isn't it? She gets everything and I get kicked out? This has nothing to do with your sister." "Bullshit." He stepped toward me, chest puffed. "You've always favored her. Always." I held his gaze. 30 days, Derek. I suggest you start looking for apartments. You're going to regret this." Nicole's voice was venomous. "Everyone's going to know what kind of father you are." I turned and walked back to my office. Closed the door. Locked it. Behind me, chaos erupted. Derek shouting. Nicole's angry crying. Furniture scraping. A door slamming upstairs. I sat at my desk and opened the recording app on my phone. Started a new file, documenting the evening, their reactions, their threats. Everything Victoria might need if this ended up in court. An hour later, I heard Derek on the phone. His voice carried through the walls. "Mel, you need to get over here. Dad's lost his mind. He's kicking us out, gave us eviction papers." Pause. Melissa responding. "I don't know what happened." He just snapped. "Nicole thinks maybe he's going senile." Another pause. "Yeah, tomorrow. Bring Grant. We need to figure this out." They were coordinating, planning their counterattack. Good. Let them come. Melissa and Grant arrived Saturday morning. I'd expected them Friday night, but apparently they needed a day to strategize. I watched from my office window as her BMW pulled into the driveway. Grant stepped out first, adjusted his suit jacket. Melissa followed, face set in that concerned daughter expression she'd perfected over the years. They came inside without knocking. I heard them gathering in the living room with Derek and Nicole. Low voices, urgent tones. I gave them 20 minutes. Then I walked out with a manila folder in my hand. They looked up. 4 faces, 4 different masks. Derek's angry, Nicole's hostile. Grant's diplomatic. Melissa's worried daughter performance. Dad. Melissa stood, arms open for a hug I didn't accept. "We need to talk. What's going on with you?" "Sit down." Something in my voice made her comply. I remained standing, looked at each of them. 3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from Sandra Reeves, the event coordinator from your engagement party. Grant's smile flickered. Melissa's eyes narrowed slightly. "She played me a recording, something she captured accidentally while testing audio equipment." I opened the folder, pulled out the transcript I'd made of their conversation, began reading. 6 more months, that's all we need. Once we're married and I'm on the accounts, we push for the sale." Melissa's face went white. "Your dad's what, 63? He should be thinking about retirement anyway. We frame it as doing him a favor." Grant shifted in his seat. "And with the prenup structured right, whatever we have before the divorce stays separate. So the business sale money is ours." "Dad, that's..." Melissa started. I'm not finished. I continued reading. "He's so trusting. He already gave us $50,000 for this party. Once the business sells, we're looking at what? $3 million minimum." Derek's expression had changed from angry to shocked. He was hearing this for the first time. Derek has no idea either. He thinks he's getting the business when Dad dies. I set down the transcript. Looked at my son. That's what your sister thinks of you, Derek. That you're an idiot waiting around for me to die. Derek turned to Melissa. You said that? I told you this was a bad idea, Nicole muttered. Melissa stood, face flushed. That recording was taken out of context. We were just talking, hypothetically. Hypothetically planning to steal my business and divorce your husband within a year? Grant stepped forward, palms up. Horace, let's calm down here. Obviously there's been some misunderstanding. Melissa and I love each other. We're building a life together. With my money. Using my business as your exit fund. That's not fair. His voice hardened. After everything I've done for this family, what exactly have you done? I stepped closer. Name one thing you've contributed that didn't come from my wallet. Silence. I thought so. I turned to include all of them. I've created an irrevocable trust. My house, my business, my savings, everything is now protected. After my death, you'll receive the minimum required by Texas law, not a penny more. You can't do that. Melissa's voice rose. We're your children. You're people who saw me as a resource, not a father. Derek stood. This is insane. You're throwing away your whole family over some recording? I'm protecting what I built from people who only valued me for what they could take. Dad. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. Perfect, practice tears. Please, let's talk about this. I know how it sounded, but that's not who we are. We love you. I watched her perform. The trembling lip, the glistening eyes, the reaching hand. The engagement is off, I said. There will be no wedding. Grant, you can leave now. Excuse me? You heard me. Get out of my house. Grant's diplomatic mask slipped. His jaw tightened. You're making a big mistake, old man. I've made plenty of mistakes. Trusting you was one of them. But I'm done making that particular mistake. He looked at Melissa. She looked at the floor. Fine. Grant grabbed his keys. But this isn't over. Yes, it is. He stormed out. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Melissa stood frozen, tears still rolling. Dad, please. You have 24 hours to return the engagement party money. All of it. Or I'll have my lawyer pursue legal action. I don't have. We spent it on. Then you have a problem to solve. 24 hours. I walked back to my office, closed the door. Behind me, Melissa's sobs mixed with Derek's angry questions and Nicole's bitter commentary. Let them process. Let them panic. The truth was on the table now. The next 29 days were war. Day 2. I found my office door had been forced open during the night. Nothing taken, but my files were disturbed. They'd been looking for the trust documents. Day 5. Derek cornered me in the garage, tried the guilt approach. Mom would be ashamed of you. I said nothing, walked past him. Day 8. Melissa showed up unannounced with a man in a suit. Dad, this is Dr. Patterson. He's a psychiatrist. I'm worried about you. These sudden decisions, the paranoia. It's not healthy. The psychiatrist smiled professionally. Mr. Mitchell, your daughter is concerned about cognitive changes. Perhaps we could talk? I looked at Melissa. You're trying to have me declared incompetent. I'm trying to help you. I turned to the psychiatrist. I have no cognitive impairment. My attorney has full documentation of my mental competency, signed by 3 independent physicians. If my daughter attempts to pursue this route, she'll fail, and I'll file harassment charges. The psychiatrist's smile faded. He looked at Melissa uncertainly. Get out, I said. Both of you. Day 12. Nicole tried a different approach. Came to my office alone. Mr. Mitchell, I know we've had our differences, but Derek is your son. He needs more time. Please. For family. I looked at her. Nicole, in 3 years, you've never once said please or thank you for anything. Why start now? Her face hardened. Because, unlike some people, I actually care about keeping this family together. No, you care about keeping your free housing. There's a difference. She stormed out. Day 17. Someone slashed my tires while my truck was parked at the business. No cameras caught the perpetrator. but I had my suspicions. Day 22. Derek moved out voluntarily. I watched from the window as he and Nicole loaded a U-Haul with their belongings. They'd found an apartment somewhere on the east side. Cheap neighborhood. Derek paused at his car, looked back at the house. Our eyes met through the glass. He raised his middle finger. I closed the blinds. Day 28. Melissa called. The engagement money. Her voice was flat. I don't have it. Grant kept most of it in his accounts. He's not returning my calls. That sounds like your problem. Please, Dad. I'm begging you. Don't sue me. I'll pay you back. Monthly payments. Whatever you want. I considered her offer. The $50,000 was gone, scattered across Grant's schemes. Suing her would cost money and time. Revenge wasn't the point. I won't sue, I said, but you should know something. Grant had a buyer lined up for my business before the engagement. This wasn't a spontaneous idea. It was planned from the start. Silence. Whatever he told you about loving you, about building a life together, it was about money. My money. And when that disappeared, so did he. More silence. Goodbye, Melissa. I hung up. Didn't feel satisfaction. Didn't feel vindication. Just tired, sad, finished. Day 30. The deadline passed without incident. Derek and Nicole were gone. Melissa hadn't contacted me again. The house was quiet. I walked through each room slowly. The living room where Derek had sprawled for 3 years. The kitchen where Nicole had helped herself to my groceries. The guest rooms they'd occupied like entitled royalty. Empty now. All of it, mine. The next morning, I got a call from Victoria Chen. Mr. Mitchell, just wanted to confirm, everything is finalized. The trust is ironclad. Your children have been notified of the beneficiary changes. They'll receive the minimum legal requirement upon your death. Nothing more. And they can't challenge it? Not successfully. This is as protected as assets get in Texas. You're secure. I thanked her and hung up. 6 weeks later, the alarm went off at 6, like always. But I didn't rush. No reason to anymore. My manager handled the day-to-day at the shops now. I'd promoted him, given him equity stake, started the transition to eventual full ownership. The business would survive without me. Thrive, probably. I made coffee, took it to the back patio, watched the sun rise over the Houston skyline. Margaret had loved these mornings. We'd sit here together, not talking, just being. I hadn't done this in years. Too busy, too distracted. Now I had time. My phone buzzed. Text from Sandra Reeves. Still on for coffee this afternoon? I smiled. We'd met twice since that first day in her office. Professional conversations that had gradually become personal. She'd been divorced for 5 years. Understood what it meant to rebuild after betrayal. Wouldn't miss it, I replied. At 10, I drove to the senior center where I'd been volunteering. Basic car maintenance classes for elderly folks who didn't want to get scammed by mechanics. 4 students today, ranging from 65 to 82. All eager to learn, all grateful for the help. One of them, a woman named Dorothy, stayed after class. Mr. Mitchell, you're so patient with us. Most people don't have time for old folks. I've learned that time is exactly what we should be spending. On people who appreciate it. She patted my arm. You're a good man. I drove home thinking about that. A good man. I'd spent 40 years building a business, raising children, being responsible. And what had it gotten me? Kids who saw me as a wallet. A future son-in-law who saw me as a target. But now I had a quiet house I actually enjoyed coming home to. A business being handled by people who appreciated the opportunity. A volunteer program where I made a real difference. And coffee dates with a woman who liked me for me, not my balance sheet. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Dad? Derek's voice. Listen, I know things got bad, but I've been thinking. Maybe I was wrong about some stuff. Nicole and I broke up. I'm trying to figure things out. Could we maybe talk? I sat in my truck in my driveway, listened to my son's voice, trying to detect manipulation. Old habits. What do you want, Derek? Nothing. Seriously. I got a job. Real job. Warehouse work. It's hard, but I'm doing it. And I keep thinking about what you said, about growing up. I waited. I'm not asking for money or to move back in. I just want to talk sometime. That's all. A year ago, I would have caved immediately. Offered him money. Offered him his room back. Anything to keep the peace, maintain the family, avoid conflict. I've learned some things too, Derek. About boundaries, about respect. I know. If you want to have coffee sometime, call me during business hours. We can meet in public. Okay, that's fair. Thanks, Dad. Goodbye, Derek. I hung up. Didn't know if he was sincere. Didn't know if people could really change. But I knew one thing. Whatever happened next would be on my terms. My boundaries. My choice. I walked inside my house. Put on some music. Something Margaret used to like. Started prepping dinner for one, which I'd learned to enjoy, instead of dread. The fridge held food I'd bought. The chairs held only me. The silence was peace, not loneliness. In the living room, a guitar sat in the corner. I'd started lessons 2 weeks ago. Always wanted to learn. Never had time. Now I did. I picked it up, played through the simple chords I'd practiced. Rough, clumsy, beginner sounds. But mine. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows. My phone showed a message from Sandra confirming our coffee date. Another from my manager with good news about quarterly profits. Another from Dorothy at the senior center thanking me for the class. Not one message about money. Not one demand. Not one manipulation. I set down the guitar and looked around my living room. 4 years ago, Margaret died, and I thought I'd never feel whole again. 3 months ago, I discovered my children saw me as a resource to be exploited. But here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. Sometimes losing people who never really loved you is how you find yourself. Justice wasn't revenge. It was protection. It was boundaries. It was learning to say no after a lifetime of saying yes. I'd saved myself. And sitting in my quiet house, playing my beginner guitar, waiting for a coffee date with a woman who expected nothing but my company, I realized something. I wasn't alone. I was free. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.